Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is Danny.
And I'm Giacomo.
And this is episode 120.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode. Things are really heating up this year. We got all kinds of stuff going on. Hope that you are doing well. I'm wondering how much we've spoken about what we're doing with our Vegan Strong Plant Build team on this podcast. Have we said much about it, Danny? I don't think so. But the past month or so, we've gone live with our team, and it's pretty exciting.
Well, by the time this podcast comes out, it's going to be like the very end of May. So we've been live with our team since the beginning of April.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't done like a super hard push, but we are introducing the athletes one athlete at a time. And I could honestly say that this is by far the most stacked team that we have ever had.
Agreed.
I am floored with the group of athletes that have pulled together to do this thing with Vegan Strong.
Yeah, like pretty much every athlete on the team is like a rock star in their own sport, of which we have the most sports we've ever had before. Bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, kettlebell, Olympic lifting, and strongman. Amazing. How many people is the team total right now? Do you know?
Over 40.
Over 40 people. Holy crap. And we are just so excited and honored that so many people wanted to be a part of this and are gonna train their asses off to go win in the Mr. America in October. Like, how crazy is this?
Yeah, you take it for granted, right? Because it's like, duh, you get to be with your vegan tribe and you get to do this really cool thing and blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of sacrifice that must be involved by each one of these athletes to do something like this. Mm-hmm. You know, family, job, their own competition path, all these things, they just put it aside for this thing that is bigger than even who we are and what we do, right? Mm-hmm. Is to leave a message and leave our mark out there in the world. Like, we, as a whole, like, vegans can do some really, really incredible things in the strength and physique-based world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And a lot of people don't know, because a lot of people don't really understand the difference between vegan proteins, vegan strong, plant built. It's very confusing. So let's clear this up a little bit at the beginning of this podcast.
Good luck.
Good luck indeed. People confuse us with vegan bodybuilding, which is Robert Cheek's company. Anyway, vegan proteins, that's us. That's me and Giacomo. We have been in business since 2008. We coach athletes full-time. That's our job. That's what we do. We create this content for all you lovely people, but our actual main gig that we do is we coach vegans and have for a very long time. Vegan Strong is an education-based group made up of a handful of vegan athletes. Me and Giacomo are two of those athletes, Robert Cheek, Corinne Sutton, some others, and we travel the country going to different fitness expos talking to people about a vegan diet. That is what Vegan Strong does. And Plant Built is a non-profit team of vegan athletes who compete together in all of these different sports at one major event where we go out and compete against non-vegans to prove that, yes, in fact, vegans can be highly competitive athletes. Plant Built is a team that Giacomo and I started in 2012. First year competing was 2013. And in the last 2 years, Plant Built and Vegan Strong have kind of come together to become one sort of mega thing. So now it's the Vegan Strong Plant Built team. But even though we are all separate entities, we all work very closely with one another. And Giacomo and I are kind of founders of two and in the other one. So it's confusing, I understand. But we just have our hands in all things vegan fitness.
Why not? I will say this. I don't think we'll have it up live yet, but what we're doing to be able to do this right and well and long term, we can't do it without funding. We can't do it without support. We just can't. So we are going to be putting a fundraiser out there. And when we do that, we'll be asking you for support. And in return, we'll be hooking you up with some ridiculous swag, like a cool limited edition graphic that one of our teammates designs every year, and the one this year is...
And by graphic, he means on the t-shirt and or hoodie.
Exactly. And a lot of other cool stuff is going to come along with that. And you get to be one of us, essentially. If you can't get there to Atlantic City to be a part of the action, this is the next best thing. And it's a way to make sure that we can continue to do this.
But I would say, if you can come to Atlantic City on October 5th through 7th, I believe, this year to watch it in action, like, come. It is awesome. It is absolutely awesome.
There's nothing more specific in the entire world when it comes to vegan athletes that are strength-based and physique-based. There is nothing more specific, nothing larger than life, more so than what we do together. And I'm...
Nothing larger than life.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, boy.
I have not been known to be the most well-worded person, but I can promise you that we are going to bring it. And there is literally nothing else in the world like this.
Yeah, it's the only thing like it. And it's something that we are very, very, very proud of, and proud that it continues to live on, even though it's like 10 years old at this point. Like, it's still interesting. It's more than 10 years old.
It's growing.
I
It's out of
know.
control. I can't even
know.
imagine. I was talking to somebody in London when I was trying to connect more with them because there's a birth fest out there that we may go to one year. I don't know if I doubt it's going to be this year, but maybe. But long story short, there's another event out there, Danny, that's similar to this that we could actually go to that's similar to Mr. America.
Like, bring our team to London.
I got dreams.
That's an expensive dream, my friend.
You know what?
That's an expensive dream.
Talk to me in 2033 and we'll see what happens. We're going to keep working towards it. We're going to take over the world, vegans.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think this is a fitting introduction for what it is that we're talking about today, which is about how to build your circle of support in your life and why that is important, and, how do you even go about doing it. And normally I show up to these podcasts with all of the research and lists and tips and tricks, but I don't have much for this one. Circle support building is not really my strongest suit. I usually am the circle of support for other people, but I'm not great at building one for myself. So I'm going to let Giacomo kind of take the wheel on this particular podcast, which by the look on his face right now might be a mistake, but hey, we'll see. Because I think he's just better at this than I am. So, what say ye?
Well, I think in a lot of ways I am closed off and I am a little bit of an island and just a kind of person who's like, it's just me, whatever. I'm not open with other people. But while I will say that I behave like that sometimes, I am also the first person to admit that I don't know everything, that I can't do whatever I want to do on my own, that I absolutely need to surround myself with other people who are both like-minded and not like-minded, but are looking to get something out of a working relationship with me and whatever it is that I'm doing. And I wholeheartedly believe in running in circles with others, because if you don't, you're going to limit your potential. There's just no two ways about it. No one can do it on their own. You can't. You can't go through life on your own. You're not going to get through it on your own, whether it's by choice or by force. So you might as well start to find people, and just, in my opinion, give them a little bit of your trust in the beginning, and then hopefully they'll earn it long term, because you got to open up the door to others if you're going to build circles, and sometimes you get burnt, and rather than sit in regret, you find a way to learn from that experience. And you bring more people into your circle that are like that. And then you get better with building your own empire by having a network of all kinds of people, And you'd be surprised how relationships evolve and change and grow over time when you don't cut people off, when you don't burn bridges, when you don't be like, well, that was a disaster, I'll never do that again. Now I can't trust the next person like this. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so you had somebody that you had a rapport with and you built a relationship with, and you didn't get out of what you needed out of that relationship with somebody in one of your circles, right? Your circle's no longer stronger. In some ways it's weaker. Okay, well, what did you learn from that person? Go find something else. Go find someone that you can work with, and then you grow. And you know what? Because you didn't cut that person off, or because you didn't have too much pride, maybe one day, 10 years from now, that person might be back in your circle. So, I am very much so the kind of person who is a self-starter and a do it on your. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. Jeez, obviously I like doing things on my own, but I am not for only doing things on my own or feeling like I need all the control in order to get something done. Quite frankly, Danny, there are a lot of times where I know I have absolutely no control and people want to give me control and I'm like, nope, I don't want it. You're in. What do you got for me? You know what I mean? And I feel like taking that kind of mindset and approach can sometimes bite you in the butt, but more often than not, eventually you wind up getting somewhere with people. And that's how you could start to learn how to develop your circles and strengthen your support. What do you got out of what I just said?
A lot.
Let's hear it.
You do not want me to repeat that back to you, I don't think. But it's interesting. I think that when it comes to building a supportive community around yourself, I think before you even start to do that, I think it's important to kind of like assess where you're at right now. Like, what kind of support do you have right now? Who provides support to you? In what arenas do they provide support to you? You know, somebody who's supportive of you when it comes to your career might not be the same person who could be particularly supportive when it comes to, chatting about your relationship or money or domestic stuff that goes on in your life. Like, there's different areas that I think many of us need support in, and identifying where we're strong in that department and where we're weak, I think can be helpful. And also asking yourself, who are you supporting and how? Because this isn't just about building an empire to hold you up in the sky. It's a give and take kind of relationship. And, sometimes you're going to be way more supportive of somebody than they are capable of being to you. But maybe somebody else is way more supportive of you than you are capable of being to them, and in different arenas. So I don't think it's like a 1-for-1. I don't think that when it comes to these things, it should be particularly like transactional in the way that we think about it. But you do need to make sure that, your needs are being met. And, hopefully you are also helping some other people meet their needs as well. But if you don't assess these things, like, where are you lonely? Where do you feel like you're floundering and you can't find that support? And where do you feel like really rock solid? Then maybe you don't need to waste your time thinking about that particular side of things. In what we do for work, working with vegans who want to get in better shape, or vegan athletes, or anything and everything in that realm, a lot of people feel very alone in their veganism. They don't know a lot of other vegans. And a lot of people feel very alone in their fitness goals. Maybe nobody they know also has similar goals to that. So those two things together make it very hard to like build supportive community.
Well, what do you do when you can't find your community locally and you're stuck with finding your support online only? What do you do in that kind of predicament?
Try to find support online. I don't understand the question. Yeah, then
I'm
you try to
serious.
find support online. I mean, before I met you and Robert, like, I did not know a single solitary vegan in my life. Like, I literally did not know one other human being that was vegan until I found veganbodybuilding.com and found all of these people who are not just vegan, but also into fitness. That forum is no longer, I mean, I think it might exist, but it's not what it used to be anymore. And to me, that was like, I had found Shangri-La. Like, I was so happy to have found that community. It filled a huge hole in my life at that point, even though it was only online.
Right. Do you feel like it helped you gain the confidence to find support locally, even if you couldn't find exactly what you were looking for in your community?
No, I just went
Really?
to a meetup of people from that group. But it gave me the confidence to go meet people from that group.
You're funny. I'm trying to bait you over here to think about what you've done locally to find support, and you keep coming back to the online stuff, which I suppose you're right. I mean, if you can't find what you're looking for and it's right in front of you, go expand your circles. Fair enough. Fair enough. No argument there, for sure.
I'm not saying people should like have to go online or anything. If you have that available to you, power to you. I think it's pretty much always better to have a support system that's in person than one that is just like virtual or on the phone in a lot of ways. But when you're in a very niche interest or something, that is really hard to find in a lot of areas, like where we live right now.
Yeah. I do feel like as you get that support, though, and you broaden your circles, you can find ways locally to also connect to others where ordinarily you'd be isolated because you'd be like, what's the point? But you found your community, right? So, like, you can be a part of a local fitness event, for example, or you can try to build your own community, or you can wind up connecting with others because they found you online and wouldn't you know it, they were local, for example. In one sense, it can be a little isolating, defeating, and lonely if you feel like you wanted someone in person, right? And you're reaching online. But in another sense, if you broaden your horizons and you know the web, it starts to come back to you, you know what I mean, and then things come full circle, and you'd be surprised the kind of support you have when you broaden your circles and you keep them strong, or you strengthen them, I should say.
So along those like similar lines, I think in addition to assessing where you do have support and where you maybe lack some support would also be to pay attention to who in your circle right now really like fans the flame of your fears. Like, who is your peanut gallery that is always chiming in negatively about something that you want to do or are trying to do? A lot of us have people who, whether they mean to or not, even if it's not intentional, their words can often make us more afraid of something. They're not encouraging. They're like, oh, I wouldn't do that if I was you. Why would you want to try that out? Aren't you afraid blah, blah, blah is going to happen? Like, oof, that not only like if you don't have a lot of support and you also have people that are chirping like that in your ear, how far forward do you think you're going to move? Like, not very. And sometimes this can be complicated even more by the fact that some people who are very supportive in some areas of your life can be very discouraging in other areas of your life. So, you know, for example, I have family members who are super supportive of a lot of the creative endeavors that I take on. Or like, you know, when we bought our new house, they were super excited for us. But anytime I go to like compete, they're like, oh, honey, why would you want to do that? Like, it's just going to make you look this way. And like, do you really want to look like that? And blah, blah. And it's like very negative, but it's a lot of times you have to recognize, which we've talked about on other podcasts, like that's their own shit there that they're dealing with. That's their own stuff. But you have to be very strong and certain about what it is you want to do to be able to kind of shut out that noise when it happens. But just recognize that some people are better in some areas than others. So maybe just don't bring up those topics with those folks if you know it's going to kind of cause them to say some negative stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of truth in you are the company you keep, and your smaller circles are the ones that can most deeply affect you, influence you, and help shape and form you into who you are, for better or for worse. So I understand the concern around those who are closest to you, like family, for example, where it can be hard to filter out the parts of them that are unsupportive, right? But all the more reason to not fear looking out and having others that you keep close to you. It's not just the 5 people that you keep close to you. You know, I guess I would argue against that. You know, yeah, the closest 5 are like the ones that are like near and dear to you and shape you in a lot of ways, for better or for worse. But the parts that they shape you for the worse, who's to say that you can't find the right support somewhere else? You know what I mean? And not let that define you. so to speak, because no one can be and everything to everyone, right? We'd like to think that, right?
Yes.
I mean, look at marriages. It's like, oh, okay, like you're supposed to be everything. No, you're not. It doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? And then it takes the pressure off of that other person, and it takes the expectations out of the equation for you. And then you wind up, before you know it, like you start to get further along in life with like the kind of person you want to become when you invite other people into your life, and you take it, like Danny said, it shouldn't be transactional. I guess I believe in that a lot too. Like, just because it's not transactional doesn't mean something can't come of it in the future. And if something doesn't come of it for you, something might come of it for someone else. You know, and I guess that's kind of like the beauty of life. Like, you know, sometimes it's transactional and sometimes it ain't, and that's okay. You know.
Also, I think, a lot of people feel like they need to organically create their circle of support, and that anything that isn't, just like, I don't know. I don't even understand how, like, people just randomly make friends in adulthood. Like, that has always kind of escaped me. Always. I get that it happens. Like, people just make friends because they see each other at the gym all the time, or they happen to go to the coffee shop every day at this time, and this person, like, I don't know. I guess that happens. It doesn't happen to me. Acquaintance, sure. Friends, nah, not so much for me. But this happens. But a lot of times people feel like if that doesn't happen, they're failing if they aren't able to create that. So I think finding groups of people with similar interests to you, online or in person, is a better place to start. You're kind of narrowing your pool to people that are probably going to have more in common with you than just like the average Joe. So that's a good place to start. But I do not want to diminish the effect of paid help and paid support. So these are things like therapists, counselors, accountants, financial planners, lawyers, coaches, personal trainers, nutritionists, like all of these things. Yes, they cost money and there's a barrier to entry for sure. But depending on where you need support and how much support you need, you are really cutting out a lot of trial and error of finding success when you actually work with a professional in that arena. Therapy is a great example because we all think we should be able to like figure out our own mind, right? How many of us have just been like, no, it's my brain, it's my body. I don't need some stranger to tell me how to think or feel. And we spend, 30 or 40 years feeling that way. And then we're like, you know what? Maybe somebody that went to school for like a decade might see something here that I don't see. So let's give that a shot. And then a lot of people go to therapy for a couple years and they're like, God damn it, I wish I had done that 20 years ago. Fitness coaching, nutrition coaching, dealing with money, dealing with relationships, all of those things can be similar. And just because in that instance it is in fact transactional, I pay you, you help me, I don't think that diminishes how life-changing and supportive that kind of help can actually be. And I would 100% count some of those people in my personal circle of support that I do pay money to on a regular basis. But if I have a question about something, I can ask them and I don't have to. I guess you should always consider everything someone says. Don't take anything as gospel from anybody. But, I'm more likely to believe what they have to say about it when it's their topic of expertise.
Right, and you don't have to fully believe or be fully influenced by someone just because they're professional and you're looking for their professional advice and they're the expert. However, you can get a lot from it, and I'm sure they'll have some like bona fide systems and processes that work for you, and you're still the one that makes a decision, and you get to learn a lot from others when you let them in. Hey listeners, we hope you've been enjoying this episode, and we appreciate your love of all things vegan fitness. For those of you who want even more support on your vegan fitness journey, check out our Muscles by Brussels community and become a member. By joining the team, you are one of our exclusive VIPs. As a member, you'll find over 200 macro-friendly, high-protein recipes that can meet any of your meal planning needs. You'll also receive training programs that update monthly. This training has progressive overload built into it, so you can be sure if you're following the program, you are making progress.
All of this and more is located inside our Vegan Proteins members only app. As a Muscles by Brussels member, you'll unlock bonus courses, challenges, and more every month. You'll also be invited to our live Zoom video calls, which happen 2 times a month, and are absolute gold to those who show up. And if you can't make the calls, don't worry, you have the opportunity to email us whenever you want. You'll receive a video response to all of your questions from one of the coaches here at Vegan Proteins every time you message us. Members also receive 40% off many of our other services. And of course, our private community of like-minded individuals is like no other. Best of all, you can try this membership out for a full month at no cost to you with this special offer for our listeners only, because we appreciate and want to fully support you. Use the link in our show notes to sign up for your free trial today. We hope to see you on our next live coaching call.
So outside of that, though, like, how do you actually do it? How do you grow your circle of support? Do you just walk up to a stranger and say, "Hi, I'm growing my circle of support, and I think you'd be a great fit"? Like, I'm serious. I mean, obviously, I don't think you should do that, but I'm serious. Like, what do you do? How do you do it? I'm like the world's most introverted, socially awkward person. So I'm just curious to hear from somebody who's much more extroverted than myself. What do you think?
Well, sometimes you hear something someone says and you're like, I need what that person is talking about. How do I hook up with them? And sometimes it works like that. And other times it's like, well, conversations about small talk are a waste of time. Yeah, they are. Until they go somewhere. So sometimes just getting to know somebody.
I feel attacked.
Hey, listen, these days I hate small talk. Like I won't even be available for it. But sometimes when you are in the right environment, like if I'm going to a fitness expo, you better damn well believe I'm having small talk. Chances are someone, some way, somehow, somewhere is going to have some sort of information I need. You know, like I'll put it this way. Okay, here's something that has empowered me, and it was just a conversation. This person isn't even in my circle. 2 people. We were at the Arnold Sports Festival, right? And there was this dude that has like one of the most successful gym operations in the entire country and arguably the world. Like he has all kinds of fitness celebrities training there. You know, and he was more than happy to be like, just like talking about how we were going to connect and network and hook up. And maybe I could have went there, but something about just connecting with that person and being like sharing energy. Cause I'm here, right, about to recruit, 40 plus athletes. And this dude runs a highly successful gym with like some ridiculous celebrities and show me one after another, like just highest profile people. But something about going back to that thought of meeting that person and reminding myself of the energy that was exchanged in that conversation gave me the mental toughness and the strength and the confidence to have conversations with others. You know, that thought just kept coming back to me. For example, so it doesn't even have to be like being in someone's life, or it doesn't even have to be like hiring said person. When there are experts around you because you're in an environment with like-minded people, small talk can go really, really far. And that's just one example. Mm-hmm. I have lots of examples like that. And you know why? Because I wasn't afraid to let someone bleed me dry, to like let me know all about them. Just, okay, what do you got for me? I want to know who you are.
How'd they bleed you dry?
Because I had nothing to say, and I didn't have the energy to listen, but I just sat there, for example, conversation after conversation, and like, bring it, like, come at me, for example. You know what I mean? And that's like, put it this way, extroversion, even if you're extroverted, has its limits. But if you just continue to engage, even if you can't engage, if you're there, if you're present, you'd be surprised what you can get out of being in conversations with people where it just keeps going. You know what I mean? You find yourself getting some interesting conversations with people that can wind up helping you in the future. Even and there was no money exchange, there was no actual real transaction exchange. This person isn't in your life at all. You're not in their life, but you got something from it that helped you get to where you wanted to be on your own in an introverted space, with an introverted mindset. For example, this is just one specific example that has literally helped me over the course of the past 3 months. So that's my 2 cents for you. As far as like how extroversion could help you even in an introverted space with an introverted mindset, if you're in the right atmosphere with the right people and you allow yourself to be vulnerable and you continue conversations with people even if it feels absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, so I guess I'm hearing just be open to conversations in public.
No. No. Put yourself in the right places. If your interest is fitness, go to Fitness Expo. If your interest is veganism, go to a Veg Fest. If your interest is business, go to a business networking event, like whatever it is. You know what I mean? Pay for your ticket and then just, go to the meeting. Have the conversation with someone randomly. Sometimes something does come out of it and you do wind up having a relationship with that person, but other times you don't. But it still carries you through and helps you come to your own ideas after the fact. That's what I mean. I think the small talk like in public settings, that's where I kind of draw the line. Like, I don't really have time for this. But then again, you never know. Sometimes you do get wrapped up into good conversations with people. So yeah, just remember, there's all kinds of ways to strengthen your circles, to grow them, and sometimes they happen in the most unconventional kinds of ways. So as long as you're open to the idea of strengthening your circles, you could find yourself in many places that you ordinarily wouldn't because you put yourself there, like going and seeking community or seeking the right kind of people where some kind of conversations can lead you to somewhere, or and also not judging the kinds of people in your circles that are not providing for you in the ways. I'm sorry, I'm lost. You've just been staring at me now. I feel weird.
It'd be weirder if I wasn't looking at you since we're having a conversation.
It's very true.
So one of the ways that I have deliberately this year worked to improve my in-person social circles has pushed me so far out of my comfort zone. Like I am shocked at myself every single time I show up for this. So I've mentioned it I don't know if I've mentioned it on podcasts or in a video or something, but I joined this gym, which it's like a friendly acquaintance of mine owns the gym. Her name is Dawn. She is wonderful. And it's a women's gym where there's a heavy focus on weightlifting, which is uncommon for women's gyms. But it's all in class form, which I am not a class girl. In all of my years training, I don't take classes. I teach classes on the cruise ship with the vegan cruise, but I don't take classes ever. So this has been so far outside of my comfort zone to go to these like weightlifting classes that are all women also, which I've never been in an all women's gym before. But hear me out. I didn't actually join this gym for the fitness aspect of it. I mean, that's fun and I like it and it's something different. So, I mean, I do get something out of these classes. It's not like I don't get anything out of them. It's just not what I would have chosen on my own. I joined the gym because I recognized that I was really lacking in-person community. And very specifically, I was lacking like female community. I was basically ever since the kids came here. And I always feel more open to talk about this on the podcast than on YouTube for some reason. But ever since the kids came here back in June of 2022, which is now the second time that we've had them for an extended period of time, I have felt very alone because I am a deliberately child-free woman in a deliberately child-free marriage. So I have lots of feelings about that for myself. Like that was a deliberate choice that we made a long time ago that I feel very strongly about for us, who also now is in a mother role of 2 small children that I didn't birth, that I don't fit squarely into like a mother role, but that's what I'm doing. So I didn't quite feel like I fit in with like moms because, they're all like, oh my God, I love my kids. This was such a great choice. We made such great choices for our family. And it's like, I'm super happy for them. They are living the life that they planned, but that was not the life that I planned. But also now I'm that person who brings up the kids every 5 minutes, like, oh my God, you should have seen the adorable thing that Daisy did this morning, or Desmond's learning to do blah, blah, blah. And I recognize how annoying that is to a lot of people as somebody who's been child-free for so long. So I just feel like no matter which direction I go, I don't quite fit. And then you add to that this level of being a vegan, a woman who lifts weights, a business owner, and there's just all of these levels of like otherness that I keep feeling. And I have a wonderful network of friends that don't live any freaking where near me at all. They live all over the country. And I could always call them and chat, and I do, but it's not quite the same as having somebody right in person. So I thought, okay, this gym of women who are mostly moms, but some in not very traditional looking families that lift weights, and like Dawn herself is a business owner, like who's interested in fitness and at least respectful of veganism, even though she's not vegan herself. Like there was enough overlap here that I was like, maybe this will be a good community for me, is the point that I was trying to get to here. And sometimes you just have to do that. Sometimes you just have to like push yourself out of your comfort zone to try to find a place where you can feel like you belong and you have value to offer the group, where you can help. You have things you could share with the group, but also they have things to share with you. And sometimes that's advice or just an ear to bend while you vent. Or sometimes it's literal stuff even. You know, all of these moms that had kids older than Daisy and Desmond were like, oh, do you need anything? Because, like, I have stuff from when my kid was his age and he started playing baseball, and you can have his baseball stuff. And I was like, whoa. Like, it's not easy. I think especially if you're an introverted person. It's really, really hard. But much like when I met you and Robert way back in the day, that was way outside of my comfort zone. And it completely changed my life for the better, like, significantly. You know, deliberately searching for these things, I think, can be helpful.
And just in closing, well, there is that fear that it will destroy your introverted space. It doesn't have to, right? It doesn't have to. And sometimes it will be an energy suck for you when you're out and about with your people, like in fitness class, for example. And you might need to recharge from that, and there is a consequence to that, no doubt. However, it doesn't have to compromise who you are at your core.
Okay, moving on to our question and answer segment. I have a friend who advocates for eating a carnivorous diet, saying that red meat, beef, lamb, doesn't really have any carbs, and that he can eat meat and be full for hours on end. I've never eaten meat in my life, and I've really never been super into nutrition. When speaking with him, I find myself slightly unmatched because he's studied this a lot and I haven't. He claims that there isn't any way to eat a vegan diet without a bunch of carbs. He admits that there are plenty of great sources of protein, but that those sources often are full of carbs and other things as well, causing the same blood sugar spikes and whatnot. I really don't know anything about this, but what would you say? He'd rather eat only meat than go vegan because he doesn't like the highs and lows of blood sugar, and apparently doesn't experience that at all when eating meat only. How do I deal with this?
How can I be diplomatic with my response? Because this person is like clearly being stubborn. The person who's like, yeah, I'd rather just put meat on my plate for 5 meals a day than risk spiking my blood sugar. Like, there's nothing logical about that statement whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, I have yet to see someone who has 3 squares where they're not eating well-rounded meals who is healthy. And this doesn't just like healthy, like physically healthy. Your carbs and fat and protein mixed together help digest one another. That's just how it goes, right? And I don't see how eating protein-dense foods with some carbohydrates in them is going to spike your blood sugar.
Well, your blood sugar will go up.
Right.
But is that necessarily a bad thing? That would be my question.
Correct.
Why is it a bad thing for your blood sugar to go up in a normal, healthy range?
Exactly. Is there something there? I mean, is this just a dietary preference? Is this a health need? And, you know, whatever it is. I mean, we even did a whole podcast on vegan keto, for example. So you could theoretically eat super low carb and probably even make it enjoyable to a degree. But in most scenarios, it's not that it's not practical. It just there's no real purpose for it. Put it that way, right? I'm kind of floored by. I mean, I'm not surprised by the ignorant side of this argument, but yeah, no. In all actuality, there's really nothing to worry about, and I would just, like Danny said, I would just ask questions. Because when someone is that, whether it's intentional or unintentional, when someone is that ignorant, you're going to wind up finding yourself in a position where you're either arguing with someone who has nothing to argue about and they're just becoming stubborn, or you're going to be on the defensive and they will have learned nothing. So the best thing to do in a scenario like that is to continue to ask questions. Question after question after question. Why is this person thinking like this, as opposed to just going on how they feel? Because at this point, they're literally just trying to justify what they're doing without any real cause or reason. When they're saying something like, "I'd rather just have nothing but meat."
Well, is it also possible that because this person pretty much never eats carbs, that when they do eat carbs, their body's not very well adapted to it, so they see larger spikes and crashes in their blood sugar than they would if they were actually well adapted to it?
Sure.
I mean, that's possible. But, like, here's the facts. Like, I love protein. We love protein. You guys know that. I also argue for a moderate fat diet. But carbs are your body's number one source of energy. Why wouldn't you want to give that to your body? Now, certainly you can have too many carbs. You can have too much sugar that does cause your blood sugar to spike too high. But that's like if I know that my car runs best on a very specific kind of gas, but then I'm like, oh, but I can just give it this other gas and it'll like turn it into this gas. Like, why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just give it what it runs optimally on? I will never understand it when people are like, yeah, well, I can just eat protein and I can just eat fat. Yeah, because your body is a freaking amazing machine that has learned to adapt to every stupid thing you can do to it.
Correct.
But why would you want to do that to it?
Exactly. We get so used to whatever we're adapted to, even if it is clearly for the worse.
Yeah, we can burn fat for energy. We can burn protein for energy, but it's a much harder process on your body. Why not just give it the thing that it wants?
Exactly.
I don't know. Very frustrating.
Danny, can you please provide a basic example of how hard I should weight train in a calorie deficit? When you're in a leaning phase, do you change up your workouts or just diet?
Great questions. So I'll start with the second part first. When you're in a cutting phase or a leaning out phase, I just change up the diet. I actually think that when you initially go into a cut, that's a terrible time to change your workout. You should keep that workout the same for at least a while, but really just change up the diet. Just put yourself in a caloric deficit via diet, and you can add some cardio if you want to, but don't change the strength training. As far as how hard you should push when you're in a caloric deficit, depends a little bit on the program, but like a ballpark figure is try to leave 2 reps in the tank. No more, no less. So 2 good reps with good form in the tank. It should feel really hard. And I'm talking gun to your head, 2 reps left. Not like, oh yeah, I definitely have 2 reps left. Like, should be really, truly, if you had to do 2 more reps, you could just get 2 more reps. I think when you push past that and you're like very close to failure, because you're in a deficit, you're not going to recover quite as well. So this can just make it even harder for you to recover if you push too close to failure. But also if you stay too far away from failure, you're not going to make the progress that you want to make. It's not going to be stimulating enough to the muscle. So I think 2 is like a pretty good ballpark for most people.
All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Vegan Proteins, Muscles by Brussels Radio. Please stay in touch with us on socials at Vegan Proteins, at I Am Just Athena, at Muscles by Brussels on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of the socials really. We have a membership where you get access to a private community and private information and live Zoom calls. We have all the support in the world for you in all kinds of ways. Reach out to us. Hit us up at veganproteins.com and shoot us a message. Once again, my name is Giacomo.
And I'm Danny.
And we'll talk to you soon.